Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Sunday evening to you all. Hope you guys are doing awesome out there tonight. Had yourselves a wonderful day, and I do hope everyone had a great weekend. Unfortunately, that weekend is now over, and we're about to head off into what's likely going to be a pretty active week with discussing the weather, specifically the tropics, and that's exactly what we're here to talk about in tonight's video. Suddenly, the Atlantic knows it's August, and there is multiple things to talk about. One of these things is likely a tropical storm as of right at this second around 6:30 Eastern time. They have not named it Tropical Storm Dexter, but I do think they will in the next update or two, and I'll try to catch that update in the middle of doing this video. But we're going to talk about all these things, all these areas of interest out here for the National Hurricane Center. We'll talk about model guidance, we'll compare everything, and we'll even kind of geek out with you guys, if you will, and discuss the environmental background out here in the Atlantic. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. And of course, if anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, please put it in the comments below. Let's get rocking and rolling tonight. Let's make sure this is going to work for us first. And it is. So we're good to go. The first thing I'll circle is what I just mentioned. I think this is a tropical storm right here. I'm about to zoom into this here in a second. But this thing has a defined low-level circulation, and it's just spinning like crazy out here. And it just it's trying to get detached from a frontal boundary, and it likely is detached now. And when that happens, it can really become fully tropical and gain a lot of tropical characteristics. And this is likely either subtropical storm Dexter or either tropical storm Dexter out here in the Atlantic. The next thing I'll circle is this little blob right here, because I know it is kind of an eyesore on your screen, and this was blowing up a lot of convection. This is indicated by these cold cloud tops, which shows up in the oranges and the reds and the blacks in between both of those colors, and you can see that with what is likely Dexter right here. I'm going to say Dexter because I just really think it is Tropical Storm Dexter right now, but I'll get those two circles off your screen. Listen, the main development region, which is way out here, and we're going to be talking about this especially for the second half of the video. It's quiet right now, but there is going to be a tropical wave, and this is kind of part of it right here in Africa, that's going to emerge off Africa and move into the Atlantic and most likely have a shot to develop into a tropical depression or our next named storm in this area. Where does it go after it develops? If it does develop, that's a big question, and we're not going to get deep into that right now, but these are the areas we are watching. And I will say, this is the other area we will watch. Even though what is likely Dexter just moved out of this area, this has nothing to do with Dexter. There could be another tropical system, homegrown activity that could develop in this area that I just drew here. So there's multiple things to talk about here. So let's move past this, a little bit closer look at what is likely Tropical Storm Dexter. Right now, technically, invests 95L, but you can see the low-level circulation spinning like crazy right now. You can see how it's spinning down like this, and then inside of this mid-level convection, you see the spin light right here, like the clouds, the lower level clouds. That is that lower level circulation. So there's probably a rapidly spinning cyclonic lower level circulation underneath all this blow up in white that you see right here, which is that mid to upper level convection on top of that low level circulation, which really protects that heart and soul of the system, which is that low level circulation. You need a lot of robust shower and storm activity convection over that low level circulation to allow this thing to strengthen. But I do think we just have an all-out tropical storm or subtropical storm out here right at this second. But it's not going to really impact anybody. The steering currents could get kind of weird, and it could kind of curve and dip back down south, but this is mainly heading way out in the North Atlantic. So I'm not going to discuss this in great detail as far as model guidance. But let's update this because it would be awesome to catch the next update, and we're not. It's still the 140 update. But listen, we have an entire fruit basket out here now, and that's kind of a weather thing we speak on. We say, an apple, a lemon, which is right here, or an orange. So this is what's likely going to become Tropical Storm Dexter if it's not already. 70% chance to do that. And like I said, I know I keep saying it over and over again. It just tears my nerves up that they could not just have made it Tropical Storm Dexter at the 5 p.m. update. But that is what this is right here in the red. The next thing I do want to mention, because we'll speak on this first, is this area right here, this lemon. Low chance of development, but I do think this will increase in the next update or two. Right now, per around the 2 p.m. update from earlier this afternoon, this has a 20% chance in this area of something tropical to develop, tropical depression or our next named storm, which after Dexter will be Aaron with an E. And I think they'll bump this from a 20 to a 30% chance sometime tonight. Might even wake up to a 40% chance. Okay, so this will be the first area we watch. Let's drop it back to this, and we'll have to flip it back to that. The next area is out here. We have a 40% chance of tropical development in this orange area right here. So a wave is going to emerge in this orange area and then have that 40% chance to develop into a depression or a tropical storm. So I think that this could go up from a 40 to a 50% chance sometime tonight also. I could see it also staying to a 40% chance. And I think that if this does develop right here, it could become a pretty strong tropical system, like maybe even our first hurricane. And I think that even this would have a chance to rapidly develop. And I'm going to talk about all of that right now. So this is the GFS, and we're actually going to see if we have the latest GFS because it was just running. And I think we do. We got about 156 hours out, so I think that'll run what we need with this. If it doesn't, I'll flip it back to the OOZ. But let's discuss this. So I really think we're going to have some sort of frontal boundary system, and just this lingering front is going to allow for a lot of shower and storm action to really fire off the coast of southeast for basically the next several days. So we keep this moving and we take it to about Thursday morning. Your time frame's up here. Don't focus so much on Zulu time, really just THU, which is Thursday, and then the date, August 7th. So this is later this work week. You see a lot of greens and maybe some splashes of yellow and orange occasionally. This indicates just a lot of shower and storm activity. Now, as we start to move into Friday morning, we have a low pressure developing, and this is a little bit south compared to the last few model runs. So low pressure developing, 10-12, not that strong. And then this basically just plows a lot of tropical moisture into the southeast coastline. So you do have a quick developing tropical system right here. Now, if you look at the GFS from earlier, let's back this up a little bit. This is getting into Friday morning. It wants to develop a tropical system right here off the coast of the Carolinas and then turn this eventually into a tropical storm just about off the coast of the northern Outer Banks here. And it actually rides this up the coastline and strengthens this. And we actually have a tropical storm, just off the coast of the Delmarva region, the mid-Atlantic. And this actually, we'll go on and show it, because I do think this is a possibility. We get about a week out from today, and it has a tropical storm off the Jersey Shore here, and it scrapes Southeast Mass, Cape Cod, Martha's Vineyard. So, and I think that this is possible. I do. I really think it's possible, and almost likely we're going to get some sort of low pressure that develops off the coast of the southeast. Okay, now we switch it to the European model. It's raining like crazy outside of my window right now. It's like I can hear it. It's kind of distracting me somewhat, but hopefully we can keep the flow going here. But the Euro, we're going to start off Wednesday morning. Same thing. You're just going to see splashes of green, yellows, and some oranges and some reds. This is tropical activity. It's just going to be a very wet pattern across the southeast for the next week. But as we keep moving here, a low pressure shows up. See an L indicating some sort of lower pressure signature right here. And we get into Friday morning and showing a 1013 millibar low. And I really think if something can get organized, even somewhat out here off the coast of the southeast, there's going to be a higher end potential for this to quickly develop into a tropical storm. Like this coming Friday, August the 8th. That's a lot of tropical moisture getting slung into the Carolinas and Georgia up into Virginia. And it does try to develop this, and it just hangs around with us for about a week. But it's hard to see anything concrete there because it doesn't fully develop it. A better way to look at this is that low-level VORT map, energy in the low levels of the atmosphere, about a mile up above the surface of the ocean in this case. You can see there's a spin here. You see the wind barbs kind of rotating cyclonically right here. That is some sort of lower pressure developing, and it spins around very broad, elongated, and it actually takes us right into the Georgia and South Carolina coastline and bringing a lot of moisture with it. Now, I know you're probably taking from this like, Mitch, I didn't really see a whole lot of anything with that. Well, model guidance is going to struggle with this. We got an all-out tropical storm off the East Coast right now, and honestly, it looks like a pretty decent tropical storm. Model guidance showed a low pressure, but it probably is underdoing it somewhat. Now, I want to show you the icon also. And we start Wednesday morning, same thing, a lot of rain over the Carolinas, Georgia, and there's a big blob of moisture off the coastline. You're going to see these kind of isobars tighten up, and then we take it all the way to 120 hours out. And that is a sub That's around a 1010 millibar low pressure off the coast of Carolinas, and this looks like a developing low pressure. If you kind of watch it, you can see the darker greens show up, even some yellows. That is a developing tropical system off the coast of the Carolinas and southeast this coming Friday. I do think we're probably going to be talking about a tropical system in this time frame as we're entering this coming weekend now that we can say. So, and this is, yeah, I think I pulled up. Let's see if we have any more of that 18Z GFS run, and we don't. So, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, if you look at the Euro ensemble guidance with this, remember, this is the EPS. It makes up 51 members. And on this thing I'm showing you here off Weather Nerds, which, by the way, is a free site. It's kind of weird to use, but it's free and it's awesome. I love it. It's going to show all low pressures that are decent in strength that form on this ensemble run. So you're going to see a bunch of L's on your screen, basically. Please don't think there's like 25 low pressures. That's not the case. It's kind of a blended run, but it shows all the low pressures in that blended run. I always like to try to explain that. And you're going to see a bunch of L's pop up here. We're going to get into Thursday morning. We get into Friday morning. See all these low pressures here? You see a couple strong ones too, like a 988 millibar here. We got a 993. Once you start to get to a sub 1,000 millibar low, you know you got a decent in strength low pressure. And all these are kind of dancing everywhere. Like we got some getting up here. We got some just heading right towards the South Carolina, Georgia coastline. We got some that are around 1,000 millibar low, which would make it likely a tropical storm. And there's just a huge spread. There's a lot of members. I would say at most there's 25, maybe 30 members at most at one given time. But, you know, they're everywhere. The spread is wild here. And, you know, eventually most of them go into land. So there's a lot of little members. They're just kind of dancing around here. But that is what, just look, if you're like, Mitch, man, I don't know what you're looking at. Just look at this as a signal. It's a strong signal for, I wouldn't call it a strong, but a medium signal for a low pressure developing off the coast of the southeast. And listen, the reason I think that if we can get a low pressure develops off the coast of the southeast, that it has a higher in potential to develop into a tropical storm pretty quick, which I think it'll be Aaron, is because the upper wind pattern and, of course, the sea surface temperatures in this area. Okay, if you look at, say, the Euro around Friday afternoon, this is a winds at about 250 millibars. So, guys, 35, 36, way up in the areas of the atmosphere, the upper levels, like over 35,000 feet up in the air. Okay, the areas you see in blue, this is where there's higher winds in those upper levels. Let's just leave it at that. The areas you see just white, these are kind of not as strong winds, just light flow. So we're going to have light flow in a lot of areas of the atmosphere around this tropical system, which means that you're not going to have a lot of wind shear. So you see these little lines with the arrowheads kind of embedded into them, and you see how they're kind of going out like that, and right here like this, like that, and kind of doing this number here. And it kind of dramatically dips down like this, and they disperse out. Now, you got a little bit of flow against the system right here, but one thing I'm noticing with this is you see these arrows right into here. There is a lot of there's a lot of push out of air, divergence aloft on the northern portion of this storm because of this enhanced flow to the east. So there's always going to be a little bit of shear with these systems. And we're speaking on a system that hasn't even developed, but I'm just kind of showing you the possibilities of what could happen here. But with so much air being pushed in the upper levels, kind of on the northern half of this system, this is going to allow for a lot of air to rise through the system. That gets dispersed out. This allows for more air to rise. And basically, it's like a ventilation system. So it's just like a constant cycle of air rising in the system. If that happens, then rising air allows for more convection, shower and storm activity. Shower and storm activity allows for a more moist environment. And I think another way you can look at this, and honestly, I'm going to do this on the fly, so I don't know what it's going to look like. I'm going to hope that it correlates with what I'm explaining here, and it does pretty well here. You see how there's a lot of green right into here? It's because there's a lot of air being pushed out right into here. So this is allowing for shower and storm activity. Now, there's a lot of shower and storm activity on this side too. And so, you know, it's just something we watch. I think the upper wind pattern will certainly be there. And there's a lot of moisture getting slung north of this system. So might have kind of a fire hose of moisture. We just have to watch. And, you know, another thing we look at, and just take from that, hey, the upper wind pattern is favorable for tropical development for the most part. Now, sea surface temperatures, it's warming up fast. Southwest Atlantic, I mean, the entire Atlantic in the Atlantic that we track for tropical systems has warmed dramatically. The Gulf is basically a hot tub now. And now if we do get some sort of tropical system that develops right in here, this is in Celsius, 29, 30, 31 degrees Celsius, and is in the mid to upper 80s in Fahrenheit. So if any kind of low pressure develops into here or a little bit over here, plenty warm enough waters. And it's almost at that time of the year in hurricane season where it's not even worth mentioning a whole lot about sea surface temperatures because just about everywhere is warm enough. And this is why what is likely Dexter is taking off right in this area. You see this little finger of warmer waters that Dexter is moving over right now, kind of in the mid 80s in Fahrenheit. So there is always a sharp cutoff a little bit further north in the Atlantic between temperatures, sea surface temperatures like in the 80s and then dropping into the 70s, which really don't support tropical development as much. But anyways, let's see if we can catch one last update on, no, we're not. But so let's talk about way out here in the MDR, the main development region, okay, tropical Atlantic. So we're going to start this off Thursday, midday, okay? You're seeing a lot of L's on your screen. I mean, so many, they're all kind of jumbled up together. So we're going to move this in time. We take it to Friday morning. You see they're getting a move on. Remember, this is the Euro ensemble. This makes up 51 members. A lot of members out there out of the 51 member mean here. And a lot of them are gaining latitude. They're heading north, heading on out to sea. And there's a weakness in the pattern up here allowing for that. But we will keep this going, and we get all the way to about a week out. And there's just about every single member that forms heads out to sea. That's good news. I mean, it heads out to sea so fast, it doesn't even curve into Bermuda, which is right here, this little speck here. So there's some strong members in here, but they don't really bother anybody except the fish out in the ocean. No offense to you guys. But you continue to move between day 7 and day 10. There is a signal for some more waves after that, okay? And we take it all the way to about 10 days out. And there is a signal emerging kind of at the day 10 mark. But, I mean, that's only like, 5, 6, 7 low pressures out of 50-something. So, 51. So, I mean, that's not a very strong signal for a wave behind it. But this is a pretty strong signal, but it looks like it goes out to sea. But let's not assume that, guys. Let's not assume that. This is the latest GFS ensemble that's available. Same thing, shows many members. Remember, this only makes up 21 members. It doesn't make up 51 like the Euro. And to keep this going here, there is just about almost every member off the GFS ensemble forms a low pressure. Even some of them are weak, a lot of them are weak. But some members do go out to sea, but on the GFS ensemble, folks, it keeps this lower in latitude. Many members are cruising more so east to west, and the ones that do get strong. So there's definitely not model consistency with the Euro and the GFS and its ensembles. So we take it all the way to, say, day 10, and the members that do get further to the west and the Southwest Atlantic, these are some strong members. I mean, not crazy strong, but you got sub 1,000 millibar lows. And listen, I really think we're going to be talking about this area right here of the Atlantic all hurricane season. I think that this is going to be an area that pops off a lot. So, moving past this, let's look at the latest Euro. The Euro is pretty cut and dry. It takes this thing and it heads it out to sea. And here it is. This is our tropical wave that will get fully emerged over the Atlantic here in the next 24 or so hours. And this is Wednesday afternoon. This is Thursday. This is Friday. And then this is this weekend, Saturday, and it has a developing low pressure, but it is heading north and gets it below 1,000 millibar low, 993, and actually gets into a sub 990 millibar low. And who knows, this could become a hurricane way out here in the middle of the North Atlantic, but it's heading on out to sea, and it's turning, and actually turns so much it eventually turns northeast, and we might have to watch out for our folks up in Europe. But anyways, that wraps fully around a ridge of high pressure. Is there anything behind this? This is 10 days out. There is a wave showing up right here in the Lesser Antilles that I do think we'll need to watch eventually. And after you get past day 10, it's just a very unreliable time frame. Now, what about the GFS? We do have the latest 18Z. Does it? Yeah, I mean, it takes just about 10 days out. Here's our wave right here this coming Wednesday. And then we get into a Friday, and then we get into Saturday. And look, it already looks different. This is new to me. I'm showing you this on the fly. This one hasn't even finished. The GFS, once again, agrees with its ensemble and disagrees with the Euro and its ensemble. And it wants to cruise this lower in latitude. It just wants to go further west. And there's just a difference between the blocking pattern on the Atlantic with each other. They're definitely not the same. So we get about a week out. And let's go on and just jump this to this here. This is a week from today, and we got a low pressure. I mean, it's 1,007, and it gets into the Southwest Atlantic, and this is as far out as the run as we got right now. I might can switch and look at weather bell here in a second, but we have one thing that I'll mention. We don't need to see any systems getting in this area right here. It just seems like this is going to be an area where the environment, the Gulf always is. We know that, right? But this is kind of an area that, we get a big hurricane here, every few years or so, but it seems like we get a big one in the Gulf every single year. But this is just an area that I'm concerned about this hurricane season. And it allows this, what is an area of interest right now, to survive the whole entire track of the Atlantic. It does not gain latitude in this, and it gets into the Southwest Atlantic. So this is a bit concerning. Not that I'm worried about it because it's so far out, but if we actually flip this and we look, because weather bell does run faster, and you're going to see me do this here. Let's see, southeast, right here. Perfect. Let's see if we got the entirety of the run here, and let's look at this. And yeah, so this is a little bit further out. Here it is coming up on your screen. If you can't see that, that's a 994 millibar low. So it proceeds to strengthen this kind of north of Hispaniola, getting close to kind of north of the Turks Caicos Islands, 994 low, and it looks like it's on its way to strengthening. I got a feeling that if we had the entirety of this run, it would end up showing something even more significant. We might try to go back to this here in a second, but the icon, guys, we can only go out all the way to about Friday, and it's kind of following more so the Euro, but there is a high pressure right here, and it has just a weak low pressure trying to get north here about 5 days out. So the environmental background, listen, I really think the upper wind pattern will support a tropical system out here, especially once it gets into the central Atlantic. So once again, what you're looking at here is wind speeds at 200 millibars, so 40,000 feet up in the air. And once you start to see some of these blue areas and even some green areas, these are the higher winds in the upper levels of the atmosphere. But if you see those white areas, it's low winds in the upper levels of the atmosphere. And this allows for a better environment for these systems to really thrive out here and not be affected by wind shear. And once this thing begins to turn, there's our low pressure on the Euro. If it does turn north, if it does develop, it kind of gets scooped up by an upper level low. And that upper level low actually allows for this thing to really strengthen. Pulls a lot of air out away from it, allows for it to breathe. More air is able to rise. And it looks like you almost have a bit of a ULAC, which is an upper level anticyclone, almost tries to develop over this. And there's just a lot of air being pushed out away from the system in the upper levels that allows more air to rise, just like we discussed with the possibility of the low off the coast of the southeast. And there's that low right there. Same thing, a lot of air being dispersed outward. So it's an interesting environment. And listen, it doesn't matter if this thing, if it does develop, turns north or if it goes this way. The upper wind pattern looks pretty favorable in my opinion. The reason the Euro is showing this thing turning, folks, is because at this point this low pressure is weak, but it's right in here somewhere. It's because you're not seeing a lot of the warmer colors in this case. You see kind of these colors up here. This is a ridge of high pressure. So the salmon color, the darker kind of orangish red color, that is high pressure. You're not seeing much of a high in this area. You're kind of getting a weakness in the pattern right into here. So any kind of low that develops, low pressures always want to gain latitude. They want to get north. So as soon as that thing sniffs out that weakness, it wants to try to head on to the north. Okay? So you continue to move forward here. there's like kind of that upper level low that kind of forms here, and it actually yanks it. Like here it is. There's a clear weakness. I mean, it's sliding in between this kind of weak ridge and this ridge up here over the northeast. And there is just a clear avenue on the euro for this thing to just head around this little weak area of high pressure right here. And eventually it's just going to slide out here. And it looks like you almost have the remnants of what would be, Tropical Storm Dexter kind of right in here or something like that too. But that's why this thing heads to the north. Now, what's the difference on the GFS? I'm going to look at that. Difference on the GFS is you have more of a high pressure influence right here. Like, where is the tropical system here? It's kind of right into here, right? Let's see what it does, and boom, there it is showing up right into here. Make sure this is the not a good example. Okay, this is the 18Z. I'm sorry about that. My bad. Let's get this rolling here. Now, to me, your low pressure's right here, and we actually get the reason why the latest GFS takes this closer to the southeast and just closer to the Bahamas and stuff like that is because we have this high pressure right here. So the flow around this is kind of going like this. This is kind of forcing this to stay further to the south and go more east to west. Okay, because the flow around this high pressure is doing exactly the way this arrow is doing. Now this could kind of slip into this weakness, and let's see what ends up happening here as we keep this in motion. Ridge kind of builds on top of it. It kind of presses it down. I can't talk. And that is that low pressure on the GFS. That little blob of blue, it's not strong at that point. This is getting into early next week. And the flow around this high pressure is kind of doing like this. And that's forcing this to continue to get closer to land. And sure enough, you keep this going here. And I will note the stronger the low pressure, the more it's going to fight against this ridge. But there's just a ridge on top of this. So what's the difference kind of in the middle ground with this? So our low pressure is right here. By the time we get into next Saturday morning, it's right here. And we kind of got this, ridge right here on top of it. What does the euro show in that same time frame? It shows this ridge kind of shifted a little bit more to the east, and it's already found the weakness and began to turn. So, that makes sense. We'll have better explanations on that when we have better examples. But what about the latest GFS? Yeah, so it's exactly what I thought. We're out the 240 hours out, and it has a 977 millibar low. That's probably equivalent to a high-end Category 1, Category 2 hurricane, getting awfully close to the Bahamas. And this is probably going to go on, if I had to guess, if we had the entirety of the run, it's probably going to go on and do something like this or like this, because this is very weak ridging up here. And the stronger a low pressure gets, the more it's going to fight to get north. So this is one of those crazy GFS runs coming in right now. But is it so crazy that it's not going to happen? No. That's why I don't think you can't completely rule out for it. You can't assume that it's going to turn out to sea. I think that's one of the craziest things I see in the comments. It's like, oh, this looks like a fish storm. It's not anything to worry about. How can you say something like that? I mean, do you got a crystal ball in front of you? So we never know for sure until we know, right? So Hurricane Florence is a fantastic example of that. Most model guys showed that heading out to sea, and we know what happened with Hurricane Florence in the Carolinas. So, folks, that's all I got. Thank y'all for tuning in. It looks like it's full speed ahead, folks. Tropics is going to take up most of our attention, and let's see if we can catch an update as far as the National Hurricane Center. We are not. So it looks like an update will probably drop in about 45 minutes. That's all I got. Have a wonderful night. We'll do it again tomorrow morning. Stay tuned. Appreciate the support. We've definitely picked up a good bit of subscribers over the last 48 hours or so. So welcome to any new people. We definitely get very detailed on this channel. We look out for one another. We love one another. And so that's all I got. Have a wonderful night.